Hello, and welcome to the Trail Manners Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Manning, coming to you from the beautiful trails in Ogden, Utah, but connecting you to wherever trail, ultra, and mountain running takes us. We'll bring trail running to life with amazing athletes, discuss the latest topics, epic journeys, and get you stoked for your next trail adventure. We're sharing the moments that make life special, because even a rough day on the trail beats a good day indoors, and nothing beats time spent with good friends and great stories. Catch us here weekly for your dose of dirt, vert, and good vibes. So now it's time to top off your water, grab some cheese curds, and join us for this week's podcast, where we take you deep into the heart of our sport. It's go time. Hello and welcome back to the Trail Manners Podcast. This is episode number 322, a new special piece of the podcast. It's one of our RunCation segments. The Trail Manners Podcast is produced for your enjoyment, and show notes are found at trailmanners.com. Come back often, and please feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Trail Manners, and don't forget to subscribe, review, and rate us on iTunes. If you're so inclined, Trail Manners would really appreciate any donations via our website at trailmanners.com, and please remember to share with your friends and let everybody know we are back. All links are in the show notes. Now let's get after it. All right, welcome back again to the Trail Manners Podcast. We are in the rebirth, our second episode of our rebirth. The launch date here is 11/24/23, and if you listen to our past episode 321, you heard from Harrison Fluman on getting back in the game, and you also found out that 8 years ago the original Trail Manners Podcast launched in 2015. That was 11/23. We took a break for 11/23 this year because of the day of Thanksgiving, but hopefully you're listening. Hopefully you're back. We're super excited for what's to come. We've got the next 2 months basically booked out. That's how ready we are this time. And as we promise, first off, we're going to start with the beer of the week. This year's beer of the week is from Roha Brewing. It's the False Prophet Hazy IPA. Super hoppy, low bitter. One of my favorite things about this, though, is they have like the brewer's secret on the back. It's a 7% beer. This hazy pops with citrus from the divinely spacey Comet hops. Pairs with beef sticks, secret campsites, and flying brooms. I like 2 of the 3 of those. You decide which one's that. So here we go. We're going to crack it. We're going to try it, and we're going to tell you all about it. Oh, there it is. This is the False Prophet Hazy from Roha Brewing. Initial impressions, not bad. As you know, the last one was Mother Earth. This one is pretty good. We're always taking requests. It's a good hazy IPA. Not a top 5 for me, but something I can absolutely have again. So this episode, this is a new segment or feature to the Trail Manners Podcast, something we haven't really done a lot with. We call it the RunCation segment, and we have a guest on the show that's going to help us through this new segment, and you will hear this voice many, many more times, especially on the RunCation episode. But it's time to welcome a very special guest to the Trail Manners Podcast. First time guest to the Trail Manners Podcast with a familiar last name you may have heard before. It's absolutely my pleasure and excited. I'm excited for this episode. We got Sarah Manning joining us today. Hi, Sarah.
Hello. Thanks for finally having me on here.
Well, I'm glad you finally agreed to be on here, because it seemed like there was some time that you just didn't want to be on my podcast.
I feel like you have to be asked before you can just hop on.
If you don't show any excitement, asking is tough.
It's true. It's true.
So those that are out there that don't know, this is my beautiful wife, Sarah Manning. She is a trail and ultra runner. She absolutely crushes me, logs way more miles than my calculator can do. But it's absolutely my pleasure to have her on the podcast. Super excited. Sarah and I do a lot of these RunCations where we just travel, we run. And before I get too much further down the road, we also have another guest in the studio with us, our four-legged friend. This is Barrett. We call him Bear. I call him Bear Rat. Barrett Thomas, Crash. He's got a lot of nicknames, but he is our RunCation buddy. And those that don't know, just a quick note, because I know it was a part of the podcast, we did lose our other four-legged apostle alert Gunner just a little over a month ago. Rip to my best friend, my buddy, Gunner. He was with the show quite a long time. Not a lot of words, but he always had a lot of help with the show. But now we have Sarah on the show. We've got Barrett joining us, and they're my two RunCation partners in crime. And we've had some great experiences over the last few years traveling and going to some beautiful locations. This time we're going to be talking about a place we're at that we came to get away. I had a soccer tournament. She came along. So we're in St. George, Utah. St. George, which is the southern border, on your way to Las Vegas, Nevada, the Sin City, the home here of Turtle Miller, long time just crazy fan of the show, like fanboys all over us, which we appreciate, Turtle. But yeah, we're in St. George, Utah, and this is a RunCation. So before we get too much further down the road, Sarah, would you please introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself. Let the listeners in the Trail Manners community know a little bit about you.
Yeah, thank you. I think you pretty much nailed it. I'm a trail runner, and I run a lot with my dog and with you, and that's my happy place. When I'm not at work, if I can be out on a mountain or on the dirt, that's where I prefer to be. So I've met some of my most favorite people out there. So.
And you are looking at me.
I'm looking at one of them for sure.
Okay. And that's me, not Barrett.
Yes, I knew him before. One. Yeah.
So you have a pretty deep race resume. You've done a lot of races. You've done, just to give give a little background of who you are, what you do. You've done 700s.
I have completed 6. I have signed up for 7.
Okay, so finish 6. Which ones have you done?
I've done one of our favorites because of our friend Jim and other reasons, but I've done the Antelope Island one twice. I've done the Salt Flats race. That was my very first one. And then I've also done the Bryce Canyon 100, the Bighorn 100 in Wyoming. I love that one so much. Last year I did Wasatch, and this year I attempted the Bear.
Okay. So you've done quite a few other than that as well. What are some of your, not just hundreds, but what are some of your favorite races that you remember?
I think one of my favorites has to be El Vaquero. That's got to be one of the most beautiful places I've ever ran before.
I'm glad you said
Even
that.
whenever it's pouring down rain the entire time and there's a river running down the trail the entire time.
Well, so, and when you ran that race, I didn't run. I came as support and because I love the race itself. But I remember you've got a Jeep. We took the top off and just put on the bikini top and thought, man, this will be nice. It's August. It poured on me the whole time I was driving around.
We still had a good time.
We did.
Yeah.
We did. You different
Mud is
good
fun.
times. Just because I was driving, you were running. But yeah, I mean, you're no stranger to trail running. You've been beautiful places, like you mentioned, Bighorn, which is gorgeous, El Vaquero, which is gorgeous, Bryce 100, all these different things. And I think one of the fun things for me, and I mentioned this on our run this afternoon, is I've run more in the desert with you than I had my entire life. I'm a mountain pine tree kind of guy. And not that you don't love those, but you like cacti.
Yes.
And
red dirt.
And so we've had some fun RunCations in some really fun locations. But basically what we're going to be talking about, and we have this segment to the show, is like, what is a RunCation? Obviously, run vacation, right? A vacation where you go running. So that's first thing off the list. What to expect on the RunCation episodes. You know, really what we want to do is talk about why. Like why, you know, we're on that vacation, how we select routes when we're at that location, kind of our strategy behind that, maybe what to bring, some little tips and tricks. And then also we want to hear from the listeners, like, you know, what are some of your favorite runcations? Because that's something we can put on our bucket list. And we're going to talk to you about some of our future locations and even give a little back in time of some of the favorite places we've had runcations too. So I think what we'll just go ahead and start with in St. George, Utah. We came down here together, obviously. And how did we select routes when we go on a runcation?
Well, I always look first, especially since Barrett's pretty much always with us, which ones are dog friendly.
Okay, yep.
That's definitely top. And then we both use all trails quite a bit. I don't know. How do we? We just...
I think that's probably the key, right? Yeah. Is like if Barrett's with us, which 99% of the time he is. Mm-hmm. If we're going to a state or national park, that could vary. Right. But when we take Barrett, we look, okay, what's dog friendly? How do we figure that out? So then that's the first step in what I look at. I think also what we try and look at too is, mileage, right? Like, Sarah definitely runs more miles than I do. So, sometimes it's, we compromise and then she runs farther. So I run the bare minimum and you run not even the maximum.
No,
so that's
not true.
And that's one thing we look at. But I think we also try and judge things off how pretty things are, right? Like, what are we going to see? Are there creeks? Are there huge cactus? Are there wild burrows? Are there, all these different things? And we also talk to people, but with that, we have been led astray on a runcation before, and we learned a lesson early. Do you remember that?
Was it in Moab?
Yes. Yeah. So one of our earliest runcations together as friends, we went on a runcation to Moab, and I'm like, you know what? There's so many places to run in Moab. I am going to go to the social media on the Facebook, and I'm going to say, where is a good trail to run? We got all kinds of comments, but one particular comment was our friend Carl Meltzer, and Carl says, hands down, this route, it's one of my favorites. This is where I do a lot of training, blah, blah, blah. Now, Carl Meltzer tells you this is a good route.
You
go, right? First off, you're thinking, all right, Carl's not going to lead you astray. Obviously, we can check like an elevation profile because, again, you don't want Carl to send you on a 5-mile run with 10,000 feet of vert because that's the stud he is. But so we're like, yeah, let's do it. Carl recommended it. Carl's a good dude. He was adamant this is where we should go, and we did. And how did that work out for us?
I would love to meet Carl. I've never met him, and ask him what his favorite parts of that trail were. I don't know if it was the ATV road or was that a water creek thing, or the road part that we were on for a while. There were very cool views. There were some really sweet views, but the movement on the dirt part was a challenge.
I think it was one of the worst trails I've ever been on.
I'm trying to be nice. I've never met him before.
I have, okay. Carl, and I know you're not listening, but if you do, it was horrible. Like, we cussed your name just like finishing Speed Goat.
It was much longer than we anticipated and didn't bring enough water, and it was really hot. Also.
And we took a wrong turn.
We did do that. That was our fault.
Yeah, that was. But there was very limited sections of this run that I thought, this is cool.
Same.
There were a few sections like, okay, I get it.
I do have a really cool photo, though. There were some cool views, and I did get a photo that might be one of my most favorite photos on a trail. So.
I just remember Barrett was shade hopping.
Oh, yeah.
He was running to the next sagebrush he could and sitting down waiting for us in the shade. But anyway, so there is that route. Like, you can ask friends. Like, I reached out to Turtle in St. George. Hey, we're looking for this. He gave me some great locations, but they didn't accept dogs, right? They didn't allow dogs. So that was off. So I think when you pick a runcation, if you know somebody, and I'll be using the Trail Manners listeners a lot for this when we go somewhere, is like, hey, what's your favorite run here? Now, everybody's favorite run means something different. Whether it's flat, whether it's vert, whether it's trees, whether it's creek. So everything means different. But I think that's one thing you could do is like find out, hey, where you're going, see if you have some friends there, figure that out. All trails is great. But there's a lot of variables, as we talked about, like how far you want to go, the type of vert. I told you here in St. George, I'm like, hey, I'm getting my jam back. I don't want to do a ton of vert right now. Like, here's the mileage I'm looking for. So there are variables we look at, but we have done multiple times gone to Kauai now and done the Kalalau Trail, which is a RunCation must, right? Literally, like
Phenomenal.
unreal. And we've also gone to national parks. We've gone to state parks. We've gone to Scottsdale, to the Wild. We literally drove an hour, paid $14 to run a 5K because we heard we could see wild burros, which we did.
We did.
We
were going to do it again if we didn't see them.
Oh, we were going to repeats
sure.
on this course. But so I think that's a lot of it is, selecting a route is challenging because I think you go to an all trails, you go anywhere and there's hikers that post, right? That's not runners, which is a good thing, but everybody's idea of difficult is different.
It's subjective.
It is. It's very. So I think, that's one of the challenges on a RunCation where you don't know specifically you're going to run this trail, right? Like going to Hawaii. Hey, we're going to run that Kalalau Trail. We knew that. We've gone to one of our favorite places, I hope I'm speaking for us both, is Bryce Canyon on Fairyland Trail. That's gorgeous. It's fun. It's beautiful. But, sometimes you go to a place because you want to go on vacation or you want to get out of town. It's like, okay, or there's a ton of options. Like St. George does have a lot of options, and you are close to Zion. So route selection is important. What else do you look for on a route? Like, what are some of the things that you enjoy on a trail run?
I love a challenge. So if that's my goal for that run, if it's going to be climbing a lot, I love a challenge like that. Like when we go to Fish Lake and we do the big Fish Lake loop, it's like we're at 10,000 feet for half of that run. And
was that 20-ish miles, right? 22?
Yeah, somewhere you can, depending on how you do it, like 16 to 20.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, and that's a challenge. But then also you go to places that are new to hopefully see cool new things, new views, new landscape. I mean, one of my favorite things at Bryce, for example, are the dead trees. I just think they're amazing.
Yeah.
Or, the Wedge, we went there because it's this massive canyon that nobody knows about.
The mini Grand Canyon. Well, we've done peaks, Kings Peak, Wheeler Peak in Nevada, Grand, what's the national park? Great Basin National Park, which had some bristlecombs.
Some very cool.
Very cool area. One of our favorite places we've been going back into is Kodachrome State Park for different reasons. Goblin Valley was super cool other than the 99-mile-an-hour winds in the sand.
For 48 hours.
Straight. But I think that's part of it, too, is like finding what you enjoy and then finding a trail. Because I think you hit it on the head. Sometimes a RunCation can be for training for a race. Right?
I think it also can be to escape weather, right?
Yeah.
Like you live in, whether you're in a hot season, you just want to get to a cooler area or vice versa, just get some warm sun for a minute.
And that's pretty common, like what we've done historically on the podcast. And you like and with you is like when you're kind of in January-ish. So you're kind of like a couple months into winter, because start of winter, you're kind of like, oh, it's white, it's pretty, it's a good change. And you're like, I'm over it. And you escape, right? You go down south, find some dirt, and it's just a rejuvenation before you come back. So, but again, I think there's also escaping the heat. When it gets 100 degrees here, it's like, where can I go that's a little cooler? So you go to higher elevations, like a Uinta is like a Fish Lake, and you can get away from that. So that's the beauty of the RunCation mode, are some of those, I guess, variables on why you're going where you're going, right? And then finding that location. The other thing, too, that we like to talk about RunCations is, what to bring, right? Because, again, you don't know what to expect sometimes if you don't know, and you can only learn so much on the intro web. So it's like, what do you bring on when we came down to St. George, right? Like, you looked at the weather, right, but you kind of pack a little more than you normally might.
I always pack a few extra layers for sure. Like, we knew coming down here that it's shorts weather because anything above 25 degrees is shorts weather, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously.
20. And
but I did bring with me, just some layers, light layers, so that I had options. But it's been pretty nice, so I haven't needed to use all the layers.
And I think one of the things, too, on the RunCation side, my favorite things, to be honest with you, besides a run, is what do you do after?
Oh, beer and fries, obviously.
Well, and then what do you do? Nothing.
Right? I don't
Like
know.
you're kind of, that's the cation
Yeah.
part. Like you did the
we
run
hang
part.
out. I go read a book.
Yep. And we've done that where, we go read a book, we go find a creek, soak our feet. And I think that's the fun part, right? Because you're not in your day-to-day life, right? Like you're not just going on a run, coming home, and it's like, I got to do laundry. Oh, I got to do this. But you're like, I guess I'll read. And Kodachrome, one of the favorite parts of being there as opposed to some areas is
no service.
There we go. Perfect. Like you don't have a choice. Like, okay, my phone's not going to ring because I have no service. I can't check my email because I'm a workaholic. There's no service. So
not on Instagram.
Yep. On the gram, or you're not on Twitter or MySpace.
Do people still do that? MySpace?
All of them. Yeah. And I think Twitter's X now. My MySpace has never gone away. It crushes. I got so many sponsors and stuff. Yeah. It's
very interesting.
Yeah. It funds a lot. I don't really have a job. You don't know that yet. I just live off my MySpace royalties.
MySpace sponsorships.
Yeah. People left. There was money to be had.
Well, I'm glad you stuck.
Yeah. But I think that's one of the good parts, right? Is that the cation part. You've done the work. You don't have to get up necessarily at the butt crack of dawn. Depends on where you're at. Because again, we could have a fun list, and I wish we would have been doing this podcast as some of the runcations we've gone on. Last Thanksgiving, we were down in Sedona for the first time. We've never been. We've just been to some really fun / what I would say unique places. They all have a little bit something different they offer, whether it's the landscape, the water, the elevation, what you can do after the race or run, and then the distance. How far is it to where I am going to camp or where I'm going to be in the hotel? And I think that's one thing. Like we started our runcation style when we bought a little trailer, right? First time we took it out, we went to the wedge. Right? And we got a lot of sand in it, which everybody knows if you've ever listened to the podcast, I do not like sand on any level. But there's the runcation side of a lot of people sleep in their cars, sleep in their trucks, right? When you do stuff, and that's cool.
And it might be different each time you go.
Yep.
Like we sometimes camp, we sometimes hotel it.
And, we don't have a shower in our camper, so sometimes we rely on
Kodachrome.
Oh, the best. Folks, if you've never been to Kodachrome Basin State Park in Utah, it's like 30 minutes, if that, outside of Bryce. They have the grandest showers. They're incredible. Like, I'm just going to leave it there. If you stay in the loop we stay in, which I can never remember the name, but it has the best bathroom and shower, and that's 5-star stuff. But these are variables, right? These are things that you could or could not look for. I'm going to put you on the spot now, Sarah. Like, someone wants to go on a runcation. What kind of tips would you give them? Like, what kind of things would you tell them?
I think be ready to change your plans on the fly. Mm-hmm. I know a couple of times that I've gone off, like Grand Junction, for example. We did just a little few miles in one spot, and it wasn't working out. The trails, according to All Trails, weren't actually like they were supposed to be. They were amazing trails, but I just didn't get enough mileage, and then all the bikes started coming out, so I went to the gas station, got some more water, refilled, and found another trail. So I think being able to change on the fly, to make just be able to make a different decision really quickly.
I think too, like, expect the unexpected.
Oh yeah,
because we did Kodachrome one time.
Yeah.
And they told us they built a new trail.
There was a path.
And it was ish. Like, we got lost because the trail ended where literally we're on a trail.
On a cliff.
We're on a trail, and we knew we got to the end of the trail because the trail tools were right there.
Oh.
That's as far as they got. They had a McLeod, a shovel, a rock bar just sitting on the trail. I'm like, okay, well, this is how far they've made it. Now, how do we get to the actual
then we
location?
Had to climb down that
crazy mountain. Yeah, so I think that's some of the fun, though, right? It's like the exploring.
Well, even today we were running, and we took a wrongish turn and ended up like hitting up that extra section.
Yeah, a little peakish, plateauish, if you will, and saw a ginormous rabbit.
The biggest one I've ever seen my entire life.
Yeah.
40 pounds.
Barrett froze. It was bigger than he was. He's like, guys.
Barrett, 75 pounds.
Guys, what's the big-eared dog doing? Why is he so chunky? But I think that's fun, too. It's like exploring and seeing something different, right? So, I mean, like for us, what's our next RunCation coming up? And we will be doing an episode on our next RunCation, which I cannot even begin to express my excitement right now. I'm giddy. It's super giddy, Sarah. Please tell. I can't get it out.
Bellingham, Washington.
Bellingham, Washington. One of
Going
my
magical
favorite. I love the Northwest, love it. But Bellingham is spectacular. Absolutely stunning. We're going to be there for a whole week over Christmas. We're spending our Christmas in Bellingham. We got a cool little Verbo, and we are going to be exploring not just trails, but our other favorite thing to explore, little breweries.
And they're so dog friendly. I've already been researching.
Yep. And then you lived in Mount Vernon,
right.
Washington, so close by, so you're familiar with the area. If you're a listener to the podcast before, you know we've got a really good friend up there, Jeff Hart, who we plan on connecting with up there to show us around. But otherwise, I think it adds a fun layer because we do in the trail running community sometimes get so caught up in races, right? And myself included, for sure. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, like this race and this race and this race. But what to you, Sarah, is the difference? Like when you look at RunCations versus races, I'm not saying your favorite thing, but what are some of the things that stand out as differences, good or bad? But, what do you think?
Everybody races differently, and I am not a top finisher ever, but I still, when I'm in a race, I'm going. I'm not really stopping usually to take the cool photos or appreciate, what I'm in the middle of at that time. But with the RunCations, we don't care how long it takes us to do what we're doing.
It's not a Strava thing.
Right.
Like, okay, we just went on this 12-miler. It took us 6 hours. Okay, that's an exaggeration.
It might have happened before, though.
Yeah, it could have.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it's like you don't feel pressure, anxiety, timing. I have to wake up at this time. I have to poop at this time. I have to be at the start line at this time, right? It's a little more
organic,
laid back. We still have a plan,
yeah.
Right? It's like, it'd be nice to be on the trail at this time, but if we're 30 minutes behind because I'm stuck in the bathroom, we don't worry about it.
Not usually.
I don't.
I mean,
I'm usually on MySpace, like here in the cha-ching, right?
Right.
But I think that's one of the fun things, though, is just that less pressure, less stress, less planning sometimes. Like, okay, do I need a drop bag? Do I need this? And I'm not saying that's not a good thing, because I'll tell you what, I still love doing trail races, and I haven't raced in a few years. I'm super excited to do that again, but RunCations have that different feel, right? Like just when I'm finished, I'm finished.
You've got my wheels turning, because as you're wanting to do these RunCation podcasts, like I think I've told you recently that in 2025, I only want to do adventures and no races. So this will be a good nudge for me to just start planning.
Well, it's like flipping the script.
Yeah.
I've been following you around. You've been racing.
I'll follow you.
Yeah, now it's time. I know. I don't want you to do that. But I've been following you around and just loving watching you race and helping when I can. It's been a lot of fun to see that. But I have also really enjoyed because we're going back to Kauai in May. We'll try and do the Kalalau again. It's a permit-based thing. But it's just so unique, right? Even though we've done it twice now, it's just something that's so beautiful every time. It's a little different. And we do stop and take a lot of pictures and stop a lot when I literally am signing over my will, like the last time we went. But we do. It's a different experience, and it's a lot of fun because you have like probably one of the top couple RunCation places in trail running, and that's Grand Canyon. That's ultimately
where we were supposed to be right now.
Yep, right now we were supposed to be there. But the fact that I am not in shape.
No, things just didn't align.
They didn't. But
changed.
Yeah, we did. But that's like one of the top ultra runner things. Right. It's rim to rim to rim. Right. You people love it. I've done it. It's gorgeous. You've tried to do it a couple times. The canyon last time you went was closed.
Right. We still made it work. We got the majority of it, but not the whole thing.
Yeah. So I think there's these opportunities and where it is a little more planned, a little more structured, and a little more things. But I think too, when you go on a RunCation, the planning is a little different because you don't have an aid station if you go decide a longer run. One of the runs we want to do next year is the Teton Cirque,
right?
Which I've been fortunate to do before, but you're out there. You are out
Plan.
there. Yeah,
You do have to plan more, I guess, than other ways.
Yeah, like the water filters and making sure you stop.
Bear spray.
Bear sprays. And so there's different places that you go that you do have to plan a little differently. But I think still, I don't know. And this could be me, right? And people might be listening thinking I'm crazy. But I think for me, it does take just a little edge off.
The vibe is more chill.
It's a lot more chill. And I think on the flip side, too, sometimes, depending on what you want. I mean, obviously, you don't see people, other racers that sometimes you have a bond with, right? Camaraderie. Like when you do a long race, at some point, you end up with your group, right? The 5 or 6 people where you just flip-flop the whole time. And that's kind of fun. Get to know new people and experiences and stories and everything else. So there are both sides to that for sure. And I think sometimes that RunCation, hopefully, is when you're with somebody that you just enjoy being with, right? Like that I can remember, you've never tried to push me off the cliff. That I remember. Now this is me remembering. So you're smiling right now, like you don't remember. And I was like, nope, I don't want to. But again, it's just about enjoying the moment, enjoying the run. Not that you can't in a race, but that's some of the differences, right? So what are some of the RunCation locations that you have? Give me a couple that are like high on your list. Maybe you've done them because you love them, or maybe you got to try it.
Yeah. So I want to explore the whole Boise area much more, and Idaho in general. I'm always blown away anytime we've gone, what they have. So I've done a little there. I would definitely like to do more. I still have rim to rim on my agenda. I just drew a blank. I had one in my head and it just left me. Oh, that's right. I would really, really like to go and see all the Hard Rock course, but not during Hard Rock. I am not a hard rocker, and that's fine, but I would love to go check that out. And then our friend Heidi that just did Run Rabbit, after talking to her and hearing about the cool trails that Steamboat Springs has, I'm very intrigued by that. I would love for us to go and tackle Mount Whitney. So those are a few.
Dang,
I have a list. I have more, but
that's just the ones that pop.
Yeah. I mean, I should have written them down. There's a whole long list.
Go, give me 2.
Oh, Grand Junction. I want to go back there too. I loved there. I explored a little bit there, but not enough.
Matt and Shar, we need your help. Tell us where to go. Matt, where's the spot? So Grand Junction. But give me two locations, and I'm only giving you 2. I know there's going to be more, but I just want your 2 that we've already done that you'd want to go back and do.
Well, Kalalau. I will do that as many times as I am allowed to do.
Yep.
What else? We've done so many. Fish Lake always has my heart, but I don't know. What are you thinking? What are your what's on your list?
Bryce.
Oh, Bryce. Yeah.
I love Bryce, and I love Fairyland.
I love when we do Fairyland to Fairyland to Fairyland.
So yeah, we do Fairyland out and back. So it's like a point to point, and we just go out one direction.
It's a loop trail.
It's about out and back, isn't it?
Well, you can make it a loop.
Yeah, it's there's multiple trails, right? So we do it out and back, essentially, like back to where we started, right? So anyway, Fairyland is definitely one I would love to go. I miss Bryce. I love running in the hoodoos in Bryce, and I'm with you. Kauai, oh my gosh, like I can't get enough of that place. So those are 2 I'd like to go back to.
Oh, and Capitol Reef.
That was fun. That was our first.
That was our first. Second. Our first one was Arches Ultra.
Yeah.
That was the first.
Our first vacation.
But our first RunCation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Was Capitol Reef right when COVID decided to start. Right. And we were the only people in this entire hotel.
Gas station.
Resort.
At the resort.
Yeah, so that was fun.
We did go, we hiked with llamas. Highlight of my entire life, probably one of them.
Llama hikes.
Yeah.
That was outstanding. Percy, I love you, buddy. He's my guy. I think, so for me, those are a couple, but the ones I'd still like to do that are on my list, again, being in the San Juans, like you mentioned, I would love to go there with you.
Yeah.
Is one spot. I love the Zion Traverse because I think you kind of go through 4 or 5 different pieces of scenery. Mm-hmm. Like you go Jurassic Park on it super lush and green, then you go deserty, then you go red rocky, then you got obviously Angel's Landing. So that's one that I would definitely like to go back to and enjoy. Grand Canyon is always the one to me. Moments I'm pumped, and the other I remember puking and almost dying. So that's give or take, like depends on the day you ask me, but I would love to do that again, just because it is an enjoyable experience. But I would like to explore a little bit out like Northwest. I mean, anywhere in the Northwest. I love the Northwest. I love, if people listening, you know how much I love the green and the fern and the tree and the moisture. Like, oh, it always rains. I'm good with that, right? I'm not.
It's happy rain.
It is. It's a super happy rain, but I'd love to do more running there. So, I mean, if you're in some of these areas too, like, you know, when Sarah was just talking about Boise, if you're in Boise and you're listening, what are some, like, send us a message. What are some of the trails we need to hit? Because again, I would rather, even though I won't listen to Carl again, I will listen to other people on what
Carl might have one more chance.
Maybe. I'm going to wait till it comes out of his mouth. Well, I have. But if you in these spots, like I mentioned a minute ago, like Grand Junction, again, so many trails, but like trusting our good friend Matt, who's listening to the show, I hope, is what are some of your spots? Because I would trust what he said, right? He would not lead us astray. So I think that's one. I still would like to do Pikes Peak.
Oh,
you know,
absolutely.
Not too far away.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of the show, and I'm hoping for more, but a lot of the show is focused in this area, right? The mountain west, right? But for me, if we're talking even like, we'll have another episode on races, but there's a lot more out east I'd like to get into, right? Like I want to run, you know, in Georgia. Yeah, I want to run in the Smoky Mountain. There's some of that stuff that super appeals to me, and a lot of it is photographic. I haven't been there, obviously, and then time of year. But I'm a huge tree and green.
I thought you were going to say cheese curds. I was waiting on that.
That's a given. And that's why I've got to get to like Wisconsin, right? And everybody knows Ice Age 50 will be on my have to do bucket list, that race, Ice Age 50, until I do it. And I don't know when that's going to happen. I know registration's coming up. I know it's in May. I know it's on my list, but man, there's just something about any type of run and sitting down, enjoying an IPA, and just popping cheese curds.
Your cheese curds equal my French fries.
Oh my gosh, man. And that's why we run, right? A lot of times people say, oh, I run so I can eat junk food. I don't need to run to eat cheese curds and IPA. I can just do it.
It just makes me feel much better.
It just makes me feel, it's on my bucket list. What bucket list? The all-time bucket list. But I think also, as we mentioned, like when we go to these RunCations, it is kind of fun to hit different breweries. You know, here in St. George, it was by Zion Brewing, but it was Station 2.
Station 2.
Station 2, and that was
dog
fun.
Friendly.
Dog friendly. You know, it's more of
food, but
more of a pub bar with not food. They had popcorn.
Yeah.
We had some popcorn. But that's always fun because that's something we do enjoy. Like we've got a local hangout in when we're back home, Roosters B Street, that we literally are there multiple times a month, right? After long runs in the spring, summer, and fall. Sundays, let's go to B Street. We just sit on the patio.
In the evening.
Yeah. So I think that when you're talking RunCation, because that's one of the questions I'm asking the listeners right now is, you know, post it on the social media channels with this podcast or email us at manners@trailmanners.com. Where are some places we need to hit? Like, what are some cool RunCation spots? But also, don't be afraid to share the after RunCation to-dos. Like, one of the things, again, what did we do one time we went to Bryce? Do you remember?
Oh, we one-wheeled through the park.
We one-wheeled through the park. We also went a time where we grabbed a little ice chest full of adult beverages and did Mossy Cove, which is this little hike up a creek.
Ish.
So again,
plant your feet in water, which is divine after a long run or a short run.
So it's like, what can you do after, right? And then just kind of enjoy the cation part of it. So this is going to be a new segment, RunCation, and we will talk about the trails we've gone on, why we're there. Like I said, next stop is Bellingham, Washington over Christmas. So besides Jeff, who I will be reaching out to, if you're in Bellingham or the area or have visited Bellingham and have a favorite trail,
or Skagit County in
Skagit
general.
County.
Yeah.
What are they? where do we need to hit? Because like here in St. George, we hit some of the Red Mountain 50K course. We hit barrel roll, Sidewinder, and what else? Was that the only two that we kind of frequented on that trip?
There was another. I'm trying to remember the name. The one that was the offshoot. I can't remember the name.
I can't either. But anyway, so we'd hit barrel roll today.
But it was the Santa Clara Reserve.
Yep, Santa Clara Reserve.
Yeah.
So again, what trails, what locations do we need to hit in Bellingham first? Because that's the next stop. But also, what are some other stops? Because we talk about a lot. We have historically on the podcast of what races.
We know Oyster Dome. We'll be hitting that
Yeah,
already.
I've been on that one.
Yeah.
That one's pretty. But like we always talk about races. Like what races should we do, right, on the podcast? But now it's like we'll have that up. That's a different podcast. We'll have the RunCation side. Like where's a place that we can go have a legit RunCation and 3 days, 2 days sometimes, depending on the distance, get some more than 1 day's worth of running in. Like when I say 1 day, I'm not saying 24 hours. I'm saying a couple times, couple runs.
Couple sleeps.
Yeah, a couple sleeps. And then also kind of marry that, if you will, with some good food. Now my good friend here, Sarah, she is a vegetarian. We're friends, yes.
Right now for this purpose?
No, we're always friends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We were friends before anything else.
Okay.
We'll tell the story later on another podcast. But no, I think, you're a vegetarian. So sometimes when we go, it's nice to know where we're going that has some options that you would enjoy. Because we've had the discussion many times when people say, you're a vegetarian? They've got a salad. Oh, sweet, because that's the only thing I can eat is lettuce, right?
And half of a tomato fills me up, sticks to my ribs really good.
Yeah. So I mean, this is important things because enjoying yourself, like, for us, for sure, I still eat a lot of meat. But again, it's like, what are things we can do? It's a run, so we want the run portion, but we also want the cation portion. And again, if you've listened, I'm an IPA and a foodie. Sarah's in the same boat. We both enjoy a good IPA.
Or even other cool hangouts, like not just the breweries, but like there's a really cool river that's got a really fun spot. You can just go take a chair and chill out for the afternoon.
Because we do a lot of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're outdoor people, I guess, right?
Prefer to be.
Yeah. And again, dog friendly is very important.
99% of the time.
Yeah, unless we're in a state park or national park.
You have one vacation a year with me, maybe a long weekend.
Without a dog. Yeah, and I choose those wisely, folks. So those ones are very specific and very special. We do have a dog sitter. Love you, Wendy.
She's amazing.
But, yeah, Barrett kind of is with us all the time. So those are things we look for. This is going to be an ongoing segment with the Trail Manners podcast. We'll have multiple throughout the year, and we're always wanting to hear more from the listeners to help us along the way. Again, not just race focused, but trying to get out more and just enjoying running in general. And I know people do that all year long, but help us out, knowing what we're looking for. And when we do know we're going to a place, like we know we're going to Bellingham for Christmas, if you've got some options, you know what we're looking for, please shoot them our way. Again, manners@trailmanners.com, or you can comment on any of the channels. I think that's really it today for the first RunCation. I think we nailed it.
Did I do okay? Am I invited back?
We'll let the listeners tell us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Trail Manners isn't about me.
So I need to like rally some people to encourage you to invite me back.
You need to do some rallying.
Okay.
It's election season.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
Personally, I would like you back, but I don't run this place.
You have to live with me too, so there's that.
You're welcome anytime,
okay.
Actually. I was just thinking about that for a minute. So, but no, Sarah, I appreciate you coming on, of course. We've talked about this for a long time, but I think most importantly, I appreciate your support with bringing the podcast back. You've been a huge support of that. You've given me a little nudge when I've needed it, and I'm super excited to be back, and it's super fun to sit across from you behind a microphone, and I look forward to doing that again real soon.
I sure hope so. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thanks, Sarah. And listeners, you know what we're looking for. And again, reminder, we are back, the Trail Manners podcast. So don't forget, we've got our Ask Trail Manners segment that we try and do once a week, where you can send us questions. We put that out on the social channels if you're not into that game or you don't follow my space channel. Just email us, manners@trailmanners.com. It's an Ask Trail Manners. What do you have for us? What kind of questions? Race, running, nutrition, gear, anything you want. Also, don't forget, forget, don't remember this. Don't forget, we've got our Trail Manners flag program where you can check out a flag. Trail Manners, it's Woody Footy. Now go get it, our logo. Take it to some awesome places, races, RunCations. Take a photo, send it to us, and please help support the show. We do have a donate button on our website at trailmanners.com. That helps us go, helps us pay the bills. Also, we have some merch. Don't forget to represent us that way. And please, please, please share this with friends. Let them know we're back. Let them know to listen if you like it, and just review us on iTunes when you have a chance. And lastly, please let us know what you want to hear about. Who do you want to see as a guest on the show? And we will try and make it happen. I'm so happy to be back. I still hope we have a few listeners out there. This is Eric Manning with the Trail Manners podcast. Thank you so much for your support. I'm looking forward to many, many more episodes to come. And we'll catch you next week on the new and next edition of the Trail Manners podcast. Thank you for listening to the Trail Manners podcast. It is so great to be back. I'd like to thank the beautiful Sarah Manning for joining us today. I also want to encourage everybody to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Trail Manners, or swing by the website at trailmanners.com. There you can click on the donate button or check out the store page for some cool Trail Manners gear, and both donations and purchases sure do help the show. Also, you can hit me up on the contact page or email me at manners@trailmanners.com and let me know what you want to see, who you want to hear, or if you would like to be on the show. And besides, I just love hearing from you. Don't forget, though, to share us with your friends. And if you could just take a minute to subscribe to the show and leave us a rating or review on iTunes or Facebook, I would greatly appreciate that. Until next time, this is Eric Manning, still reminding you, you don't get what you wish for, you get what you work for. Now go get it.